Every quilter has scraps. I'd like to show you a fun way to use even the tiniest of them. Anybody can do this. It's fun, and you might be surprised at what you create. I suppose you're wondering what you'll need if you want to give this a go. For the first layer, you'll need your foundation, which I'm using a stretch canvas here. They come in many sizes. You can use any size you like. I have fluid matte medium, also known as Mod Podge, if you're familiar with that brand. I'm using the golden brand right now. You'll also need a brush, either a bristle brush or a sponge brush. I'm using a sponge brush. And you'll need your fabric scraps, all sizes. You can see I'm applying the scraps randomly using the matte medium. And I'm using the matte medium generously. You want the fabric actually soaked so that it sticks really well to the canvas. You can work flat on a tabletop. I'm working on an easel mainly so you can see. And when you do work on an easel, you might have dripping, so you may have to go back and take care of those drips. I have made the choice to use a color palette here of blues and teals and grays. Of course, you can use whatever you like. You can even put these on in any direction. I'm kind of doing this horizontal thing right now. And I do turn the canvas upside down at times because I don't want to get too locked into an idea at this point. It'd be easy to get locked into like, oh, let's make this a landscape. Oh, this blue looks like a lake. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But I like to keep it a little abstract as long as I can. Eventually, it usually turns into something, but not always. Sometimes it stays abstract. So just have fun with it. Try to be loose. You might even play games like the next scrap I pick up, I'm going to put in the upper left-hand corner, and then don't look at which scrap you grab and just grab it and put it up there. And do that over and over. That way your controlling mind isn't thinking. After you have most of the canvas covered, you want to let it dry thoroughly. And I would even say overnight is good. Here's where I ended up at the end of layer 1. Of course, yours will look completely different, and that's good. It does definitely have a landscape-esque feel, and it is January here in Minnesota at the time I'm taping this. I guess my environment is having an effect on me. What do you think? So let's start layer 2. I'm using acrylic paint, water, and a brush. I like to paint the edges first so that I don't forget. I don't always frame my work, and so I always think it looks a little more finished if the color wraps around. So at this point I am just covering the surface with this color, and it's obviously diluted. This just gives me kind of a more unified background to work with. I also had considered sanding this down before I did this layer because it's very rough, but then I chose not to. I'm still letting the painting, I guess I should say the piece, dictate the direction. I'm still open to whatever this decides it might become. Waiting for the hints. I think it's right around this time, yes, where that curved piece of fabric is sort of calling me. Actually, what I'm hearing is in my head at this moment is once in a blue moon. Actually, I'm hearing the song, but I'm not going to sing it for you because I can't sing. When I was in high school, I was in the a cappella choir. However, even when my kids were little, they'd say, "Mom, don't sing," when I would sing along in the car. So, okay, enough about that. So I'm seeing the moon, and that's kind of leading me to my next moves here. I've added a primary cyan to bring in more blues. So one thing nice about working with this watered down acrylic is that if you don't wait too long, you can take a rag or a paper towel and just kind of scrub it right off. So you don't have to be too fearful about what you're doing. It can either be undone or it can be covered up. I always tell myself, it's just a layer. Here I'm looking for my next color. I have baskets full of my acrylic paints. They're all in one place, but they're not exactly organized, so it requires a certain amount of digging. I found this green gold, and of course it's almost gone. So I squirted the last drops that I could get out of the bottle onto the painting. So what I have here are some backer board cards, and essentially I'm cleaning my brush off. I don't want to waste any paint, and potentially these could become smaller works later. So this is where I ended up after layer 2. I'm really fairly pleased with it. So let's see what happens next. So the next thing I do is coat the canvas with clear gesso. And the reason I do this is because acrylics can sometimes be kind of, when they dry, they can be kind of slippery. So when you go to put another medium over it, it sometimes won't adhere. So the clear gesso gives it a nice grabby surface. I'm just popping in a couple close-ups here. The gesso is not dry yet, it's still wet, but you can see that it's still a rough surface and that there are strings from the fabric, and some places are kind of sticking up. It's still rough, but I think that will contribute to the overall look in a positive way. So let's see if I'm right. And here I had turned over the canvas so that I could get the edges that are on the bottom. And now it's interesting because what was once a potential moon is now a potential bridge over water. See, this is the magic of working this way without knowing what you're going to create ahead of time. Things start to appear, and then you have choices. Now I'm using some vine charcoal and I'm just sketching out some ideas. I am using my non-dominant hand to do this because I don't want it to be tight or precise. I just want to play around and get a feel for what if I did this. And I'm kind of looking for hints from what's already there as to what could be there. So in some cases, these lines are following the lines of the edge of the fabric, for example. I'm trying not to think too much. I'm trying to just kind of find my way without pre-deciding what I'm going to do, if that makes any sense at all. It's kind of hard to describe. Now I've grabbed a piece of white chalk or white pastel, and I'm just going in and lightening under the bridge to see if that's something that I might want to do. Now with both the vine charcoal and the pastel, you can blend with your fingers, putting some lines in for water potentially. So I'm just kind of blending it further. I'm using a paper towel here, and because I put that gesso on, it's really sticking. So I'm adding some water here, wiping again. More water. Now here's the cool thing that happens. I'm spraying the water because I want to lighten the white. And because it's dripping down, you can see it's making some ghost-like stems. I'm going to zoom in so you can get a better look here. There, where I'm pointing. And this is just another example of what I consider the magic of working like this. I like to turn my work. If I'm working on a square, I actually like to turn my work and look at it from all four sides. Since this is going to be a vertical piece, it doesn't have to be a vertical piece, I guess. I'm thinking of now going back to some acrylics and adding some more paint on here now that I kind of have this sketch. So the charcoal and the white chalk is not, I have not fixed it, so it's going to move around and change and maybe disappear, and that's okay with me. So right now I am just squeezing some Prussian blue along the very top and squirting it with some water and letting it kind of do its thing. While I'm thinking that it is going to be the bridge with the green sky, I do realize at this point that I still could turn it the other way, or actually I could leave it the way it is and have the green as the grass and the blue moon. It's not too late. That's why it's good to walk away. It's good to look at it from a distance. It's good to look at it through your camera where it's itty bitty. I just walked back into my studio and glanced at it from a distance and said, nope, the blue's staying on the bottom. So here's where I ended up at the end of layer 3. We are now on layer 4, and I am using my all-time favorite tool, which is a Pentel ink brush. I have doodled with this brush for I can't tell you how many hours in my sketchbook. I absolutely love this thing, and it's perfect for this. I'm doing silhouettes of the leaves on the tree, and I'm sure I will use it in the foreground as well. Love, love, love it. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is where I am using the lines from the strings on the fabric to decide where the branches will go. I don't know about you, but when I am working with this brush, I just find it so relaxing and meditative. I'm kind of experiencing the same thing watching the playback here. I'd be curious to know if you find it the same as a viewer, or maybe you just find it plain boring. Let me know. This is where I ended up at the end of the day, and I knew I'd be adding more. So I added some white to the bottom to try and brighten it a little bit and bring some detail to the foreground. I propped it up on the coffee table so that I could look at it. I started thinking, this doesn't look like any of my other work. I didn't know if I wanted to show it to you. I didn't know if I wanted it out there. So I looked around from where I was sitting and looked at some of the other artwork that I've created to try and figure out why doesn't it look like my artwork. And then I found this one, and I was like, oh, maybe there is a correlation other than just the leaves. That whole saying about sit with it, it's worth a lot. So as I sat with it, I realized I wanted to add a little more green to the base, but not too much. So I got out some pastels. The white pen you see here is a clover pen. It's actually for writing on fabric, but I used it here. Not sure how archival it is. This is where it ended up. And the next morning I sat with it as I was drinking my coffee, and I had these thoughts. Number one, it may not look like a lot of my work, but I have learned in the past that sometimes what we create is not for ourselves, but for others. Number two, I was really enjoying those light shapes. There are kind of 3 of them, the top green one and the one at the left and the one at the bottom. And at first I thought, I like that they're balanced. And then I'm like, whoa, they really add something. It's almost like you can step into the scene on them. And then my whole mind shifted. Now, don't think I'm too crazy here, but that what I thought was the bridge suddenly became a portal. So it's like, wow, now I'm connecting with my own painting. It's like this is like an ethereal portal to another world. Okay, don't lock me up. Oh, it's just my thought. What do you think? I'd love to know. So I gave it the title Two Worlds, and here you can see it matted and framed. Prints are available at Fine Arts America. I'll have the link below. And guess what? Remember when I was cleaning off my brushes? Well, here's what that turned into. I titled this series of 3 Late Summer Garden, and these prints are also available at Fine Arts America. Link below. Oh yeah, and these guys are there too, just in case you're interested. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.